I really had plans today,
Oh, yeah?
and then it rained.
Yeah. It seems to be a normal reoccurrence
Yeah,
here
we have
in
a
this
whole
household.
video about it and another podcast. So apparently, like, this is just our thing. Summer showers.
Yeah.
That's what that really feels like. And thankfully, it wasn't too bad. But I remembered when I was walking out of work, or when I was gonna need to walk out of work, it's like, oh, I don't even have my rain jacket. So
Yeah, that kind of stinks when you're not expecting it.
mhm.
Even though the forecast has called for rain, but East Tennessee, you never
It's
know.
very hit and miss.
Yeah. They could say rain, but it could just like keep being delayed, or it could come really early and disappear really fast, and not at all what they're saying it's going to do.
Yeah, that's pretty much our normal.
So,
But my name is Justin,
and I'm Labry.
and this is the Better Together podcast. Yeah, I really had plans. I wanted to work on our garden fence, so that way the dog will stay out of that garden bed.
Yes, and things can actually grow.
And I'm
because-
trying in that to get better at not having to finish every project I start when I start it.
Yeah.
I find that that's one of like those really big struggles that I have. And I don't know if other people are like that, but I'm 100% somebody that if I start something, I don't want to wait to finish it. I want to finish it like right now.
Yeah.
If I start something today, I don't want to have to come back later. And I think that causes a project not to be as fun. I think it causes the project not to get done as well as it probably could. It causes you to get hurt. Like when I burnt my finger the other night working on a different project.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I do it every time. But
it's
like
that one little saw thing though.
No, it was I was doing the drill.
Oh.
And you forget that like screws get hot. And I really burn it. Like it's rough looking.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think that rushing to get it done causes me more headaches. And so I'm trying to be a piddler where I can
do
just
a little
like
here, do a little there.
Tackle a project without having to do all of it, and that proves harder than I'd like it to be.
Yes. Well, the hard thing about that is you come upon stuff like today where you had planned to work on it some and get a little bit done, but then the weather does not cooperate.
Yeah.
So then you're stuck waiting more, and you worry because the rest of this week does call for more rain.
Well, the rest of this week's just busy at this point. So it'll probably be Saturday by the time we actually finish this project.
So then it just feels like it keeps extending and extending and extending.
Now, yesterday we were able to go get the material because we had enough. We're building a fence out of 2x2s and 1x2s. 2x2s for the post, 1x2s for like the railing, I guess. I don't know what you would call that on a fence, but
yeah, the
part that
crossbar thingies.
And we had enough 2x2s from some leftover wood stuff. So I put most all of those in over the weekend, and then I was like, I'm gonna stop now before it gets too late, before I get tired. I'm not gonna go to Home Depot, even though I really want to go to Home Depot and buy the 1x2s. And so then we stopped on Saturday, had church all day Sunday, and then Monday I got home from work and we went to the store. It was yesterday, I guess. Went to the store. And we bought the 1x2s, came home, and just put them in a safe spot. And then we were planning to get to just like do some of them today. Probably not all of them, but get a start on it.
Yeah, because you have to do cutting and stuff to be able to divvy it up on how you want it and everything. But then in that, like, we also got stuff for me to do like a Florida weave trellis for our tomatoes. And like, I've got to get to that project.
The problem, though, is that part of the issue is, like, you've got to get everything out. And so, like, we've got sawhorses now, which, I mean, I'm glad to finally have some. But I've got sawhorses. You might bring the sawhorses up, and you get the saw out, and the measuring stuff, and the level, and then you got to put it all back up. So I feel like I'm spending more time, like, putting stuff up than I am actually doing it.
Yeah.
But
the setup for it is a lot, and it makes it not as fun. Like, if this was like a dedicated workshop space, that would be nice. But like, we don't have the option to have both.
No.
We can have studio space, or we can have storage space, or we can have workshop space.
Yeah, we don't have a bunch of different things, but it's just getting all that stuff out is a lot. And I feel like that's what causes me to want to get things done. And just be like, well, I just want to go and get it done so that way I don't have to start again and finish again, because those take time. But I've really started thinking about like slow living, in the sense of just like not being in a hurry to get things done. I feel like the only thing that we should be in a hurry to do is tell people about Jesus.
Yes.
And that's about it. Otherwise, there's no reason to rush.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, we're always early, but then you always fall into that trap of like somebody's slow in front of you and you get annoyed, or you want to drive faster than you should, and those kind of things. It's like, well, I got to slow down.
You get in that mindset of like, I have to be there. I gotta go, because you're trying to be early and be prepared and whatever. But in that, like, it causes so much more problems.
Yeah, I mean, your heritage is Yankee, so it's different for you people. But as a true Southerner and a true Appalachian,
listen, my family acclimated very well.
But it's not in your nature. So my point is that as a true Appalachian, I look and I see like all the old videos and like, pictures and stuff. And you see these people and like, it's just a lot of front porch sitting, not doing anything, just looking. And then they'd get up and, I'll go over here and mess with this or mess with that, because you can't sit still very long.
Yeah.
But you sit there and you just think about things and you get up and do. It's like, that's what I want to be.
Yeah.
I want to be the old person sitting there like that. We watched that movie, The Boys in the Boat. Surprisingly great movie. It's what Disney movies used to be.
Fantastic.
Just what was that, A Million Miles Away?
Yeah. Another
astronaut.
Just absolute amazing hit from Amazon.
Yeah.
There
was certain things in the movie that they could have not had in there that didn't add anything to the storyline, of course, but it wasn't way far out there.
And it wasn't like bad. It was
depends on who you ask. Yeah. I would say yes, but
it wasn't.
It wasn't vulgar. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just saw that. It was just like, that didn't need to be there.
Just like,
But either way, it was a really good movie. But in the beginning of the movie, there's like an old grandpa sitting there on the dock, and he's just like peeling an apple with his pocket knife. Yeah. And I'm like, I just want to be the guy just sitting there peeling my apple,
watching these kids act a fool,
watching these people row, or just watching the grass blow in the wind. I don't know.
Yeah,
the birds bounce around.
Have your pole hanging out.
Last Thursday, got home. I'm trying to be better about also just doing stuff during the week.
Yeah.
And this isn't anything against my family, because I know my mom listens to this podcast. But it was a lot of like, you get home from work and you just like watch TV and you go to bed, and anything you want to get done, you get done on the weekend. But you don't really get a whole lot done during the week. And I'm trying to get past that. For one, I want to be able to enjoy the weekend and not be working the whole time on the weekend. And also just like little bits of stuff. So like Thursday, got home, mowed the one side of the yard, the one side that needed to be mowed. And then
the one side that gets sun.
like you had made dinner, so I go tell you, I was like, I'm just going to eat on the porch. So I just sat on the porch watching the birds pop around or whatever, and just didn't have anything to listen to, wasn't on my phone. It was just nice.
Yeah.
I think what I really want to get to, and really just hold us both accountable, and like, you have your Apple Watch still. I don't have a smartwatch anymore. That's my other old man thing.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do a video, and maybe this seems like really silly, especially with like what our channel is, but I thought about doing like an everyday carry video because of like all the old man stuff that I carry at this point, like my old man knife and my like all that stuff. The old man knife is a legacy thing.
Yeah.
It's like I want to have that thing that like the kids are like, that was dad's.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things nowadays, like you think about your grandpa, and there was things that it was just like, that was his, like they wore the exact same thing all the time.
Yeah.
Like my mom's dad would wear a white t-shirt and just a regular pair of blue jeans. Like not, and we think of blue jeans now as like having like the worn in look and stuff. No, it was just like straight blue jeans.
Yeah.
Not acid wash, not wash, just
no fading, no
exactly.
Nothing fancy, just old blue jeans.
Yeah. Old pair of Wranglers you bought at Walmart, black loafers. That was every day. That is exactly what he wore. He'd go to work in a white t-shirt. He's like, do you wear anything but a white t-shirt?
Do you own anything?
If I see him in my head, it's in a white t-shirt and just like light washed blue jeans. But that's just like those things that we don't see anymore, because like people have so many different outfits, or like people even who are into knives. It's like, well, I've got 100 knives.
And that one, and this one, and that one.
And like, it's so much easier to fall in those traps today. To be honest, what we don't think about, even though people still like, you feel like you don't have money, it's because nowadays we do have more money than our ancestors did, to be honest. And then we have so many more opportunities to spend that money that we're just getting so much more. But they bought a knife. It was like,
just waste it.
I'm buying a knife so I can have a knife.
And it's going to last me forever.
Yeah, I don't want to have a knife every 6 months, you know. But that's not where I was at all going with that. But like just the slow living, just trying to not be in a rush and not be worried about it and not be distracted. And so part of that is like, so you still have your Apple Watch. That's what I'm saying. So you'll get notifications. I'm like,
Mhm.
what we need to do is just take all the devices, except for like sometimes we have to use the laptop for all the ministry things and stuff.
Mhm.
But just take like the iPads, the tablet,
Mhm.
phones, and just set them somewhere on the counter. And like I'll have my phone sound on, you'll have your watch. And if
Mhm.
it's important, we can mess with it in the evening. But
Yeah.
otherwise, like when I get home, we just set them all aside and try our best to not do it.
Mhm.
And I was even watching a video, because sometimes I think I fall into this thing where it's like, well, I'm going to watch just like an educational thing. That doesn't mean it's still good for you,
Yeah.
first of all. But I was like watching a thing about World War II and just trying to understand how you get to a place
Mhm.
like that. I started thinking like, I need to read more. And obviously I love reading the Bible, love reading Christian books, but sometimes it's good to do other things to get your mind just,
Yeah.
it's hard a thing to describe.
Stimulated.
Like stimulated for one, but also like, I don't want to overfill myself with the Bible or with
Mhm.
God word stuff and then burn out.
Yeah. There is such a thing as being too spiritual.
I've hit it many times.
Yeah.
That's the reason I can speak on that. It's like somebody may look at it and be like, "You're crazy." I've hit the wall a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't want to hit the wall again. But I was
Mhm.
thinking like I could get a book on some kind of history thing or
Mhm.
something that would just be beneficial still.
Yeah. I'm
But
so sad about that one book that we gave to your brother that you had started reading. That it was an old book. We'd found it
I don't even
in like
remember.
Blue Ridge or something. And it was on World War
It's
One
probably
or
in his room.
Abraham Lincoln or
Probably
something.
in his room at mom and dad's house.
Probably.
So. But you know,
were so interested in it.
yeah. Well, I want to get past though some of that stuff of just like being on the phone, being on the tablet and stuff, and just be like able to slow down, enjoy. And like I was thinking, of, like you, and I think I've heard somebody say this before, but it's like you can tell that we're in a hurry as a society because most everybody wears running shoes, you know, but we're not. We're just running to get to the next place. We're not running for
exercise,
sport or
physical
exercise.
benefit.
You know, we're driving cars that are much faster than they need to be, right? Like you think about the cars today, even your most basic car has 2 to 3 times the amount of horsepower that a car had, 10 to 15 years ago. And the speed limits are not any faster than they were 10 to 15 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, like you're still just driving 45 mile an hour in a city to get to work, or you might be driving 70 now on the interstate. But even a 10 to 15-year-old car can do that, right? We're just in a hurry to get to the speed that we're supposed to go, and then most people are exceeding it, but we're in a hurry to get to a speed limit, right?
Yep.
When we bought our Mustang, it's great. I'm not downing cars. We've had fast.
Yes.
I have a truck that's got more horsepower than it needs. I'm not. But
it's a fantastic truck. I love it.
It's a great truck, but
too much like more than is necessary.
Yeah, like we're not like it can tow 10,000 pounds. I'm not putting 10,000 pounds behind myself. I don't trust myself with 10,000 pounds. But we had a Mustang, right? And we had the option to buy a really nice EcoBoost and have like every feature that we wanted, or we could have bought a GT.
Yeah.
Now this was 2016. Prices were obviously different. Interest rates were obviously different.
Yep.
You had a job.
Yep.
Yeah, a lot of things were different back then. But we had the option to buy the really fast one or the little bit slower one that could do everything. And so I chose the slower one, and I caught a lot of flack from a lot of friends for that. They were like, "Why didn't you buy a GT? It's got all this blah blah blah." And I'm like, first of all, this is a new body style. It started in 2015 in the Mustangs. And in 2015 is when they came out with the EcoBoost engine for the Mustang.
Yep.
And that engine produced 310 horsepower. The GT was producing somewhere around 400. But the previous Mustang GT was producing about 280 horsepower.
Yeah.
So the EcoBoost was faster than any Mustang before it with a 4-cylinder turbo that got 28 to 30 miles a gallon. Yeah. Compared to the V8 that was getting half that and had 100 more horsepower that you would never be able to use on the street.
Yeah.
I remember one of the first times I had that car, I went to a place near us, a shopping area, and it had rained. I wasn't doing anything crazy. I just went to pull out onto the road, and I turned, and immediately the rear end kicked out on me with the slow car.
Yeah.
So I was like, I didn't need all the extra thing, but a lot of people gave me a lot of flack for it. They're like, well, you should have bought that one. And I'm like, that one's really cool. I said, but this car is so fast that I can't even use what it has.
Yeah.
Right. The only car you could buy, and I don't even know if you can still buy them, that you could ever buy that you could actually like wind out on the street, just floor it and feel like you're really doing something, but not break the law, It's like a Mazda Miata.
Yeah.
That's the fastest feeling slow car because you can get on the interstate on the on-ramp and just floor it and feel like you're shifting gears and doing all this stuff and you're still only doing 60.
Yeah.
You know? But when you get in these Mustangs, like our Mustang, if you came out on the interstate and you floored it, you're doing 160. Not really.
Yeah.
But you could hit 90 mile an hour and be like, oh man. I remember when my mom, she had a 2014 Nissan Pathfinder, right? Well-insulated car, not the most well-built drivetrain, but it was a deceptively fast car. And that was the first time growing up that we ever had a deceptively fast car. And I remember her and Dad both driving it at various times. And all of a sudden, oh my gosh, we're doing 90 mile an hour. And not knowing.
Yeah.
Right? And on the way to Florida in our truck, I had moments where I was like, oops, I didn't know I was going so fast.
It doesn't feel like it's that fast.
But that's because how powerful these cars are because we're all in such a hurry to get things.
We try our very best to be law-abiding citizens, so there's no reason for us to have a car like for the GT reason.
It's so much harder to be a law-abiding citizen as far as the speed limit's concerned on the way home from work than it is on the way to work. Like every day I battle that of like, well, I could bump the cruise control up just a little bit more. And I'm like, no, I don't need to do that. I can wait. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's just one of those things, though.
But it's like, why would I spend more money to get less of a car? And sorry about that, y'all. But why would I spend more money to get less of a car and not be able to use any of it?
Yeah. Like I don't want access to something I'm not going to have.
Yeah.
You know, there's still part of me that's like wants the old truck thing. And then I think about it and I'm like, if I want to feel like I'm driving an old truck, I can just turn the air conditioner off and turn the radio off. Or just only listen to the radio and not use Bluetooth. And look, I'm in an old truck.
Yep.
You know, but there's part of that just wanting to go back. Still, there's part of me that like the flip phone, just like I don't want to have the access for a little while because, oh, well, you know, I you can have the thing and just not use it. What? You know, like obviously there's lines in that. Like we all have access to things that we don't access.
Yeah.
I hope. And, you know, but at the same time, like, there's still going to be that draw to like, well, I'll just check.
The draw of
I'm just sitting
simplicity for
here.
you.
Because the other thing, I like the idea of simple.
Yeah.
I want to live a simple life. And I think that's what really, like, that's how I would define being content, is it's easier to be content with a simple life than it is with a complex life, you know? And I'm trying to get better about it.
It's just like the Bible says, it's easier, it's harder for a rich man to go to heaven.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So, I mean,
but to be content with nothing is much easier than to be content with everything, because then you just want more of everything, right? But no, I do draw to that, like, just simple, like not having the temptation, right, is much easier than just standing in the face of temptation, right?
If there was a Apple flip phone that we could get you to, I could still track you, because I absolutely love that feature, like, so much, and I love the ease of sending pictures and videos.
That does seem like the most perfect Apple product would be like, we're going to create a flip phone that only does texts and calls. It only has one port, no camera. Like just really weird. Like you could see Apple just like doing that, though.
Yeah. So Apple, got your next,
we know you listen
product.
to this podcast. What, Steve Cook is the name of the Apple guy, I think now.
I have no clue.
It was Steve Jobs. And so they were like, we
up.
need another Steve. It was just like when Blue's Clues lost the first Steve. They were like, well, we'll just hire another Steve, you know.
It just makes it easier on the whole cast.
Exactly. Like people, like think about like if you work for a company and your boss leaves, it's much easier for just to be like another Steve than it is to be like,
exactly.
I got to learn how to say Jim now. Wow. We are so rabbit trail-y. Like I can't even keep my mind straight.
But yeah, so I would be more apt to encourage you down that path if that was an option.
Yeah, it's
because I really like the tracking on both ends, being able to tell where we're at due to various reasons. There's so many accidents today in today's society.
I really don't worry about it like you do. Like you really get real wired up about it. And I'm like, if something happens, you have your emergency. Like even because the chances are, like obviously, like we text throughout the day or whatever. But the only time that would really matter, I feel like, is if it was a situation where you got kidnapped and they didn't take your phone or something. But like otherwise, Like, as long even a dumb phone, you can set up emergency contacts, and so if you get something happens, then the police and EMTs automatically check your phone and just call your emergency contact.
Yeah, but it comes in handy
But then
when either of us is out with other people.
You get a Gen Z that's like, an EMT now, and they're like, I don't know how to use this flip phone. No, I don't think I could.
What is this?
I guess I could have one. I was gonna say I don't know if I can really have one just because of all like the church stuff. Because now there's like Telegram and the Church Center app and
so many
all
different
these things.
apps.
But then I could just like have that stuff on the iPad and use it because it's not like I need to be on those all the time.
Are you gonna have access to because the iPad has to be on a hotspot now?
Yeah, but like I don't need.
Does it have a hotspot?
I don't need to be on those apps at work or anything.
True.
Really, I don't reply anyways. I'm awful at texting and all that stuff anyway. Like if somebody texts me,
the only person he texts back is me.
Yeah. And otherwise, like they'll send group messages and Telegram and stuff, and I just like I'll read it, but I don't.
You're in the know. I'm the conversationalist.
Yeah, I'm like I don't need to reply to this. Sometimes I feel bad about it, but other times I'm like I don't need to say anything. So, but I definitely want to get just simpler.
Yeah.
And that means like not being distracted by things. The completion thing though, like that desire to finish stuff, like you can see that in other areas. Like when you're like, I don't like to take just a couple minutes to read something, or in a situation where like, think about being like a waiting room. You're like, well, I don't want to start reading this because I might have to stop when they call me.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's kind of silly at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, I'd rather just do something completely meaningless, like be on social media that I don't care about. And it's like, well, that's dumb. Yeah. And I'm not even on social media, but like reading random news articles or something. It's like, why waste our time with it? But I'll tell you, like, it would be something like, could you imagine going in a waiting room and just seeing somebody like with nothing and they're just sitting there just waiting contently, like patiently? That's also contentment.
Well, the last time I went to a doctor's appointment, I took my embroidery.
Yeah.
And that's what I worked on.
But that's the other thing. You don't think about that, though. Like, contentment isn't just being content with what you have.
Yeah.
It's being content in a situation. And so when we're constantly needing to distract ourselves, then we can't even sit and be content.
Yep.
But if we can go to the waiting room and wait 5-10 minutes, just sitting there, not needing a distraction, that shows the contentment that we have.
Yeah.
But we're discontent. That's what our culture in the United States of America is, just discontented.
Yeah.
We want new things. We want more things. We want to be distracted. We don't want idle time. And a lot of people don't want idle time because they don't want to deal with what their thoughts are.
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to say. They don't want to be stuck with their own thoughts because it's just so much negative nowadays. Because sadly, this world is without God.
Well, some people in their worst nightmare nowadays would be to be in a room alone with their thoughts. Like that's like, oh my gosh. But the reason people don't deal with anything or haven't dealt with anything is because they haven't dealt with their own thoughts. They're constantly
distracted.
Like you need that time.
Yeah.
To not think about things. And so it's like, and even to not have something playing in the background. Like I struggle with that one. Like I like to have a podcast play when I'm working on something or, music or anything. And it's like, no, sometimes it just needs to be quiet.
Yeah. Well, I used to be like that growing up. Like I constantly had to have something going on. But in this stage of life where my life is filled with noise.
Yeah. My 4-year-old.
Yeah. I enjoy not having things play at times. Like, oh, look, I could hear everything. Just like a pin drop.
Wow.
It's great at times. It really is. I love it.
I enjoy it sometimes, but then it's like, sometimes it's like, I don't want to think about anything.
Yeah. Well, in the times where I still want something, it's because I use it as a motivator. But a lot of times because music, you said that though about rhythm.
I still want something. I think sometimes it's not even that we need it, but we're conditioned to it.
You're drawn to it. It's been just built into us over time to have background noise.
Yeah. Well, what's funny though is that we're best at not listening to anything when we're in the car together.
Yeah.
And not because we're talking. I mean, like obviously we talk in the car and things like that, but at the same time we'll turn the radio off and just drive sometimes. Like we'll talk and then we'll stop for long stretches of time. It's just quiet.
We're just enjoying the view.
And all of a sudden you hear from the back, can you turn the radio up? Hey, guys, it's very quiet.
Lead on Good Shepherd's on. I need to sing it
because
loudly.
it's normally like super low to where like I don't really hear it, but in the back you can hear it more.
Well, it's just enough to like catch little bits, but not have it be distracting.
Yeah.
And he hears certain songs and he's like, I need to sing this song.
Yeah.
Let's
definitely
jam.
big on that one. But I think that you have to make the practical choices to slow down. And so that's what I'm hoping to be better about.
Yeah.
Is to just get past that desire. Because I think too, that idea of like meditating on God's word doesn't happen when you're watching television,
Nope. Yep.
when you're listening to a podcast, when there's music blaring, when you're distracted.
Yeah.
The way that like you'll meditate on God's word is first to read the Bible.
Yes.
Which
you have
is
to have his
important.
word in you to be able to meditate on it.
You can't digest what you didn't eat.
Yeah.
And so you've got to eat. And the word is the bread of life. So we eat the word by reading the word. But the way that we meditate, the way we digest it and begin to understand it better is by having those times to be able to think on it. And that's not always easy.
Yeah.
But it's a choice that you have to make. And I think that we could be so much better in relationship with God. And really, we could notice other things so much more. Like when we're distracted, we don't notice things.
Yeah.
We may not even notice the needs of our family and the ways that they're crying out for attention. We talked about that in the parenting class recently because we were talking about how like sometimes our kids are going to be annoying.
Yeah.
We were actually talking about, it's funny because like I'm really bad about being on subject if you can't tell from this podcast. And the nice thing about this podcast is that we don't have a subject until I start talking in the first of the podcast. I've gotten really good, guys, at just talking.
Yeah.
Like I think I spent a lot of time thinking, and now I just need to say the things. But we were in the parenting class, and it was talking about alternatives to spanking, and part of those were about, and not to say you shouldn't ever spank, but there are other options that work better in different situations. I just want to clarify that.
And each child is different. Some may not respond to spanking, and a lot of times spanking can turn to abuse and various things along that nature.
And there should be a progression. The first spot on anything isn't just a spank, right? Like there's other options to try to correct a behavior before you ever get to spanking. And we're teaching this class to people who aren't, in church and who are having issues and like being sent to us by, child protective services type situations. But anyways, it was talking about alternatives to spanking, and one of those was talking about ignoring. Now, obviously, we don't ignore harmful behaviors, but we ignore things that can be annoying or that are just silly that we're trying to correct without giving them attention, because when we give them attention, it causes them to want to do it more because it gets our attention. But the key in that I pointed out to the class was that sometimes our kids are going to be annoying. Yeah. And we can't ignore that, and there are times to ignore it, but sometimes when our children are being annoying to us,
when they're acting out
they're doing it to get our attention, and it's because they want our attention. We need to look beyond the behavior sometimes at the root cause. Yeah. Every behavior has a cause. Sin has a root cause. Yes. Right? All these things have a root cause behind them. And unless we address the root issue, we're never going to get past the behavior.
Exactly.
Right? The reason people live in sin is because they have a sinful nature that they'll never overcome without Jesus. Yep. The root cause of sin is a lack of Jesus.
Yep.
Right? The root cause of your kid being annoying is probably because they want your attention. Yeah. And so if you want to have those better relationships, give them the attention they crave, and they'll respond in different ways that aren't as annoying. But when we're distracted by our phone and it's like, go away, go away, go away.
Maybe annoying isn't the right word. Maybe like pestering.
Well, I think, to me, it is annoying. Yes, but I get what you're saying.
To better describe.
Yeah, when they're overbearing, when they're, constantly trying to get your attention, it's because they want your attention. It's not because they're trying to distract you. It's not because they're trying to annoy you.
It's not because they're trying to be bad.
Or bother.
Yeah.
It's because they love you. What we have to realize about our children is that we are the light in their eye. We're the apple of their eye. Yep. We are the greatest thing to ever walk the earth. And sometimes the reason we struggle to be with our children and to identify with our children is because we don't feel that good about ourselves.
Yeah, we don't see that in ourselves.
We see ourselves as less than how they see us. And we need to realize that they see us as the greatest thing. They want to spend time with us. And so we should give them that time, and because that's what they're really after. Yeah. A lot of times our kids are getting in trouble, not because they're bad kids, but because they just want attention from mom and dad.
Yep.
And that's a hard thing to realize. And I'll be the first to say I'm not the best at playing.
It can be hard.
I know that. And it's gotten easier the older that our son has gotten. And I hope to be better on this second round with this child as well. But when they're real little, you were like, you'd get on to me about like when he is a baby. Like, you got to play with him. I'm like, I don't really know what to do with him, you know? And so like, but playing can be difficult. So it's like, I'm much better at like, hey, do you want to go help me at the store? Do you want to go help me? He helped me when I set the fence post. It was just me and him outside working. When we go camping, I'm way better at those activities because I'm not a big player, you know? But all that comes down to just trying to figure that out. This wasn't supposed to be a parenting episode, though we could definitely do one now.
Yeah, we could.
If we ever could.
Yeah. It's just hard through all stages because you have to figure out what's going to work best for you and your child, because otherwise you're going to come upon problems on your end and on their end. And that's what's great about having the parenting class is you can learn a lot of stuff that like is good, but you maybe have trouble putting into practice.
Most all of it.
Yeah.
It's hard to put into practice, but you know that you should, but you struggle to do it, but it gives you practical advice on how to do it.
Yeah.
But I think we're probably going to go ahead and end this episode because somebody else is getting restless. And I'm also trying not to be as much of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And so in the future, maybe the next episode, we'll talk about my struggles with perfectionism because we've already talked about
how it's fallen into our child as well.
Yes. But also, as we've already talked about today, my struggles with trying to, complete everything that I start right away. The nice thing about this episode of the podcast, or really this podcast in general, is that we don't come on here to be preachy or to tell you we know better. We're just working through our own problems and hoping that it can help you too. And I really think that's like a big benefit, is just to talk through things. All that I'm doing all the time is just trying to be a better example of myself. And that's easier said than done.
Oh, so much easier.
Like, I think of that like, I don't always want to be who I've been.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to be better. And obviously we find that better example in the Bible and through the example of Jesus, but it's much easier to make mistakes and to fall backwards. But if we don't look at our life and evaluate it and figure out how to be better, then we're just going to keep living in the same thing.
Yeah.
And as I'm told Albert Einstein said, I don't know if that's true or not, but the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. And if we want to enjoy life, if we want a happier life, then we've got to make changes. And I know I can see what causes me the problem, and I'm hoping to correct it. And so I'm just hoping that we can help you guys to notice those same things in your life and be able just to meet the needs where you have them. But we all have areas that we can improve. None of us are perfect. I know that I'm not.
I'm not.
And our pastor's great at telling us that he's not either, which always is a great blessing to help you on.
Yes, it's nice to hear that from the pulpit.
Yeah, to know that other people are, even if they seem so much greater and like in high achievement than you, they still have problems, they still have struggles.
Yep. So, but I think we're going to go ahead and call it. Please have a wonderful weekend, first off, and then come back on Monday for More God Less Me.
Yep.
Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, comment, all those good things, and God bless.
God bless.